The 19th century spawned a most evil entity, a purveyor of lies and deception, whose dark empire would encompass the globe and give rise to a family lineage of equal depravity. That man was robber baron John D. Rockefeller. Let us examine the Rockefeller family and their unending contributions to the detriment of society. In 1927, the Rockefeller Foundation threw its weight behind a burgeoning German institute known as the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute of Anthropology, Human Heredity, and Eugenics. The Rockefellers funded its construction as well as day-to-day operations throughout the Great Depression. The institute adhered to strict Nazi eugenic principles and theories on racial hygiene promoted by Nazi employees such as Fritz Lenz and Eugen Fischer. Fischer led a hideous campaign to sterilize African German children, which the Nazis nicknamed Rhineland bastards. SS officer Dr. Josef Mengele, the Angel of Death, received his training as an assistant at the institute. During World War II, Mengele relocated to Auschwitz to micromanage the transport of body parts from the concentration camps to the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute, where they were used in studies designed to further the Nazi race-based agenda. In the late 30s, Hitler's Germany presented unique business opportunities to investors abroad. Rockefeller's Standard Oil of New Jersey struck up a secret partnership with a German conglomerate known as IG Farben. Lured by the promise of a shared global monopoly, Standard Oil provided synthetic rubber technologies and ethyl lead to the German manufacturer, both of which enabled Hitler's Wehrmacht to wage war ahead of schedule. IG Farben built the Buna chemical plant inside Auschwitz, where it produced synthetic oil and rubber at the hands of 83,000 slaves. It also held the patent for the pesticide Zyklon B, which was used in the gas chambers during the Holocaust. The IG Farben trials saw 13 directors of the company sentenced to prison. Back in America, the ever-shifty Rockefellers slipped through the cracks in a backdoor compromise. After the war, John D. Rockefeller III tapped the Rockefeller Brothers Fund to create the Population Council, where eugenic research continues to this day. Fast forward to the present day, where heirs to the Rockefeller fortune continue in the footsteps of their forefathers. This new and perverted generation plods along, unrepentant and more secretive than ever. Cast in the likeness of his father, David Rockefeller Jr. has spent the better part of his life pandering to the global elite. In 2009, the Times UK reported on a clandestine meeting between billionaires Oprah, Warren Buffett, George Soros, Bill Gates, and David Rockefeller Jr. Purportedly, the topic of the day was world population growth and using one's wealth to counteract it. Considering the Rockefellers' historical involvement in population control and Nazi-style eugenics, this is most worrisome. David Jr. is also a member of the government-altering Council on Foreign Relations and attends Bohemian Grove along with his father, David Rockefeller Sr. It is at the Bohemian Club where members participate in robed occult ritual, nude rumpus, and mock human sacrifice. Our next person of interest inhabits the heart of Appalachia, trying to pass himself off as a man of the people and honest representative of the state of West Virginia. It is none other than Senator J. Rockefeller. This two-faced despot was born and bred in New York City, graduated from Harvard, and became a member of Uncle David's Council on Foreign Relations. Rockefeller quickly established himself as an imperialist and stalwart asset to the National Security Agency. In 2002, Jay began to beat the drums of war, claiming that Saddam Hussein was working aggressively to develop nuclear weapons and that Saddam represented a grave threat to the United States, which of course was a bold-faced lie. After the illegal invasion of Iraq, the United States government used the false threat of terrorism to rein in the Big Brother police state here at home. Abominations such as the Patriot Act were set in motion, and the NSA began to illegally monitor the phone calls, emails, faxes, and internet accounts of millions of Americans. This was done with the assistance of large telecommunications companies. Once the story was leaked, J. Rockefeller prompted Senate intelligence to defend the perpetrators such as AT&T and grant them full immunity from privacy lawsuits. Again, in 2009, Rockefeller overstepped the Statutes of Liberty and introduced the Cybersecurity Act, which allows the president to shut down all internet traffic on a whim, along with the added option to sequester any communications information regardless of the law. Jay was quoted as saying, "It really makes you ask the question, would it have been better if we had never invented the internet?" End quote. Rockefeller went on to cite absurd figures such as 3 million cyber attacks on the Department of Defense per day. One of the more brazen of his ilk is Nick Rockefeller. Nick is a Yale graduate, a member of the illustrious Council on Foreign Relations, and sits on the advisory board of the RAND Corporation. Recently, RAND provided a study on how to subvert parental consent laws in regards to adolescent vaccines given at school. At one point, Rockefeller initiated a meeting with movie producer Aaron Russo with the intent of befriending him and bringing him on board. Russo became friends with Rockefeller for a brief time, at which point Nick did divulge his innermost secrets. In a hospital room video clip, as Aaron Russo lay dying of cancer, he recalled several meetings with Nicholas Rockefeller. Rockefeller had told him of his family's bizarre plans to microchip the U.S. population with implantable RFID chips. In addition, and almost a year before 9/11, Nick spoke of a coming event which would allow America to invade Afghanistan and Iraq, and in the aftermath, send soldiers on cave-to-cave hunts in Afghanistan and Pakistan in search of non-existent enemies. Nick also attempted to recruit Russo to the Council on Foreign Relations. Next, I would like to demonstrate the deceptive nature of the Rockefellers. On December 3, 1998, the New York Times reported that none of the 140 descendants of the Rockefeller family has significant stakes in ExxonMobil. David Rockefeller himself was quoted by the Times as saying, "I don't think that any member of my family has been involved in the oil industry for almost a century. We have all gone on to other things." End quote. Then, on April 30, 2008, MSNBC reported on an Exxon shareholder meeting attended by the Rockefellers. The article stated that the Rockefeller family describes themselves as the longest continuous shareholders of ExxonMobil. Great-great-grandson of John D. Rockefeller, Peter O'Neill, and other family representatives attended the meeting and proclaimed that ExxonMobil was indeed a significant holding for the Rockefellers. This is in stark contrast to the statement made by David Rockefeller only 10 years earlier. Distancing oneself from a reprehensible company like Exxon makes perfect sense based upon recent news headlines. And what of the other Rockefeller properties in which they denied majority ownership, such as Chevron, ConocoPhillips, and Chase Manhattan Bank? Are we to believe that the Rockefellers ceded their family's core holdings? Yet such a ruse is easily possible under American law. Private investment companies, such as Wellington Management Company, are not required to divulge their client lists. Should the Rockefellers or their subsidiaries control the majority shares of a company by proxy through one or more of these private institutions, no one would ever know that they in fact control the company. The Rockefellers have proven themselves to be a most competent enemy of the United States and the international community. Their trespasses continue to this day under the direction of quasi-government organizations and within the government itself. Awaken, America, and inform your neighbors. With your help and dedication, we can shine a light on the darkest recesses of the American government and expose the Rockefeller stranglehold.